right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone. This is Bob Pompeani here in the Fan Cave. We use you every night at 10:35 for another edition of the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. The number to call is 412-575-2600. Tweet at KDPomp, at the Pony Express. Andrew Fillipponi up at 93.7 The Fan. We have a lot to get into, Andrew. I'm going to start with, just to get this out of the way, the Pirates are insignificant when it comes to the playoffs, but Paul Skenes still is putting together a Rookie of the Year resume. But once again, Pirates got no support for him. They lose 4-0. He left the game. It was 1-0. He goes 6 innings, 1 run, and in 3 starts against St. Louis this year, they've managed to score just 3 runs in the 20 innings he's been out there to pitch against St. Louis. So you're not going to win games. I mean, by rights, he should have 15 wins by now. Do you think that's going to hurt his chances, or what do you think his chances are when it comes to Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, the numbers are so good. The ERA, the lowest in Major League Baseball since he got called up. So he should, by all rights, I think, be a front runner for the award. But Jackson Merrill in San Diego has helped get them to the playoffs. He's been their most consistent hitter this year. And so I think Paul Skenes might suffer from the out of sight, out of mind issue where his team has completely fallen off the map here in the last 2 months of the season. So I think that it will come down to how he performs in his last couple of starts. If the Pirates elect to give him a couple of more starts here, Bob, that could be the determining factor in who wins it. But if I had a vote, I would give it to him because he is doing things by a rookie that we've never seen before. Jerry Koosman is the last pitcher to have an ERA this low as a rookie, and he did it in the year before they lowered the pitching mound. Mm-hmm. So it's something that hasn't happened in more than 50 years. When you do something that's been so unique and so one of a kind, Bob, I think that should make you the Rookie of the Year in my mind.
21 starts. His ERA now stands at 2.07. All right, let's talk about the Steelers. They go on the road and win. So that's 2 for 2 on the road. It's never easy to get that done. They did it in a game that deteriorated, I thought, from an entertainment point of view as the game went on, Andrew. It's tough to watch the way that game went. The second half especially, the Steelers were pretty much shut down, and they held on to win 13-6. Their defense has been spectacular. Made it very difficult, and you knew that was going to be the case with Bo Nix. But this offense has been, I'm trying to find the right word that fits, because it hasn't been efficient, because they only scored 1 touchdown in 8 quarters, but they haven't also given the other team any opportunities by way of turnovers. So how would you look at their offense right now, and specifically Justin Fields? He's going to start again one more time at least. If he plays well, how long does he continue to start?
Well, I like what Fields has done because they're not asking him to win them games. And that's, in my opinion, more on the coaches than it is the player. Is Justin Fields supposed to say, screw off Mike Tomlin, I'm going to go try to make a name for myself and get myself paid by making spectacular plays? No, that's not how it works. So he is managing the game the way that they want him to. Frankly, the way that many did not think he could do. They cite his win-loss record in Chicago, 10-28, and say, this guy can't play mistake-free football. Well, he's done that through 2 games. As a matter of fact, his passer rating through 2 games is better than Patrick Mahomes. So he's not turning it over. There's not a lot of touchdowns, but there's not a lot of, on his part, plays that you would say, man, he does not look like a starting quarterback in that sequence. So I've liked what Justin Fields has done, and right now I'm encouraged enough by what he's doing that I don't want to take him out of the lineup, Bob, until he struggles.
Yeah, well, we're going to get a better test, I think, this week. And it depends on the health right now of Justin Herbert. I saw he went through x-rays today that were negative, but he got his leg rolled up, and not sure if he's going to even play or not. And if he doesn't, that makes things altogether different. But if he does play, the Steelers are going to have to at some point score more than they've scored. I think that's a pretty obvious statement to make. But Justin Fields has showed me he can throw the ball down the field. He's made some of the best passes I've seen in the last couple of years. The one last week, right before halftime, to George Pickens was a dart. And the one yesterday, which was nullified by the penalty, 51 yards. I mean, right on the money, blanket coverage. Those are 2 of the better throws that you'll see from any quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, and it's a shame that one to Pickens didn't count. That was on Broderick Jones, and what a mess that has turned into with Broderick Jones. On one hand, you're encouraged that Proy Fautanu came in and played well, but just the entire handling of Jones, from benching him to then trying to rotate him into the game, and then when you do, you're backed up on your own 1-yard line, and he commits 3 penalties, and it's so bad mid-series, Tomlin takes him out, and then he never puts him back in. It's just, it's really puzzling that somebody who I thought made incredible strides once he went into the lineup out of position last year could now be subjected to this role, but also that his play could look so uneven and so atrocious at times. So the offensive line, Arthur Smith, that's his bread and butter. They need to get better there, and I expect they will once Seumalo comes back, Bob. I've liked what Zach Frazier has done, but they didn't draft Broderick Jones in this quote-unquote second run around the lap, as Mike Tomlin likes to say, to be their backup offensive tackle. That was not the plan here with him.
Yeah, but that's exactly what he is right now, and he had some interesting things to say after the game about it. We'll talk more about that, and we want your phone calls on all these topics and more. It's 412-575-2600. That puts you in touch with us. We're live with the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call right here on KDKA+. Our GM Sierra tweet of the night comes from Josh Yohe of The Athletic, who says Sid will probably have left $50 million on the table in terms of additional money he could have made for the sake of helping the Penguins field a winner over the course of his career. It's part of his legacy. And Andrew, that was a big thing today. I really never had a doubt it would get done. It was just a matter of how long it might be. And the fact that he was going to take $8.7 million, which is not surprising. He's done some things to try to make it possible for this team to actually go out and help him in terms of bringing in other players. If it's not going to happen internally with the system they have down at Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, or wherever, they have to go out and get it. And I'm wondering your take on this. You know, by rights, he could be commanding what Draisaitl got or what Connor McDavid got.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he is one of the best bargains in all of sports. It's $8.7 million again, like you said. And there's more than 40 NHL players who are making more money than him. You know, they're stuck in the team that they've been for the last 15 years, and you know that might still make them a playoff team, but they're not a Stanley Cup contender because they still have that aging core around. They're the oldest team in the entire NHL.
Yeah, and they actually got older with bringing in Hayes in the offseason, I thought. But yeah, I think that's true. And I don't know if it's not his final call, I wouldn't imagine. His preference is to play with those guys. I think one of them, specifically Malkin, could have brought in a lot of assets a few years ago, and they chose not to do that. Instead, they ended up re-signing all of them coming back. So now it's incumbent upon Kyle Dubas to think about the present. I know some people think it's about the future and the present. You can't do both. It's hard to do both. But he's brought in some guys this year, and they're going to need, you know, all hands on deck to try to pull this off just to get into the playoffs. But I think if they get in, if they're healthy, who knows what can happen. We'll see. But this is a first step in that happening. And a good deal for Crosby, a good deal for the Penguins more than that, and a good deal for Pittsburgh sports fans as well. All right, let's go number one Cochrane, go one better caller of the night, and that is Brad in Brookline. Brad, you're first up. What's up?
Hey, what's up, guys? No matter what you say, 2 wins on the road, very good for the Steelers. But it's not sustainable the way they're winning. I mean, you got to score points in the NFL. I mean,
well then, Brad, can I just ask you a quick question then?
Sure.
If you're going to say it's very good, and then the next thing out of your mouth is it's actually a horrible thing long term, then it's not very good. Why even lie to us and say it's very good? Because you don't even believe that. You don't. If you're saying it's not sustainable, why even brag about it? Why even say it's very good?
Well, 2 good road wins on the road is good. No matter what.
But if you don't think they played well, then why give them credit for it? I'm just confused by that.
Well, they played good defensively, didn't they?
Yeah, I think it can be both.
Yes.
I mean, I do. I think their defense put them in position to win games, and they weren't going to lose it. And you knew with both quarterbacks, although I think Kirk Cousins playing last week has helped him tonight a bit. He didn't play in the preseason. That helped the Steelers in week 1. He couldn't move. They knew that. And in this case, Bo Nix is a rookie, and they saw him in game 1. That helped them in game 2, and they knew what they had to do to try to confuse him. So, I mean,
I'm just saying, Bob, if I was doing very good at my job and then the next thing out of my boss's mouth was a criticism of me, I wouldn't feel like I was doing very good at my job. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Very good wins, and then immediately they launch into a criticism of what happened.
I think his point was it's not sustainable with this sort of offense. They have to produce points. That's been the problem the last 3 years. Under 17 points per game or whatever it's been, you just can't win in the NFL against high-flying offenses. And there don't seem to be that many right now. I guess New Orleans would lead the way with Arizona shortly after that. But eventually, when these guys all get their games together and rhythm starts to occur, you're going to see some teams that are going to stretch the field and do different things. I hope the Steelers could do that. But at the same time, somebody other than George Pickens is going to have to be targeted a lot more in the wide receiving situation. I have to believe, Andrew, that they're going to be looking at trade possibilities before this deadline comes up if things don't improve there.
Yeah, I mean, someone might want to ask Mike Tomlin again tomorrow. He said right before the season started that he felt very good about his wide receiver room. To steal Brad's take, very good. Well, they haven't looked very good. Van Jefferson caught 2 balls for 14 yards. Calvin Austin played a ton in that game and only had 1 catch for 6 yards. That's not the kind of production they thought they were getting, apparently, out of those wide receivers behind Pickens. And as far as Pickens goes, Bob, I thought he played the best 2-catch for 28-yard game that I've ever seen in my entire life. Yeah. I really believe that.
Well, you know what it was like? It was like I thought T.J. Watt had the game of the week in the NFL last week defensively because he had 1 sack, but really he had 3 sacks, 2 of them strip sacks that weren't counted because of penalty. George Pickens had 2 receptions, 1 a touchdown, 1 a 51-yarder, both wiped out. Although I got to tell you, I thought that pick call on Van Jefferson was the wrong call. I thought that was a good play. It should have been a touchdown. And
Gene Steratore agreed. And I don't know what Chris Hoke was talking about on postgame because he attacked Gene's objectivity. He said because the man's from Washington, PA, that he was making a call from the Steelers. No. Come on, Hokie. Come on, Chris. Steratore's going to call it like it is. He's not going to give the Steelers a hometown call. Come on, Hokie.
412-575-2600. We got John in South Park who's up next. Hey, John, what's up?
Hey, guys, thanks. Hey, I know you. I'm not here to beat the refs up, but the refs are the refs. But I swear I watched the games all weekend, college and pro, and didn't see 4 plays in a row without a flag being thrown. Then they start throwing 2 of them.
I don't like it.
Is it along the lines that I don't know the rules of football anymore. This is not the game I grew up with when I was young in the 60s and 70s. These formation shifts and what they get called on, and they're 5 inches away. You didn't cover the tackle stuff. I don't know if they're not being taught or they don't know the game or what, but it's not a product. I wouldn't go see a game now.
Well, John, what I would tell you is, first of all, I don't like as many flags as we saw yesterday. And I realize a lot of these calls could be made. To be honest, you could call whoever's trying to prevent T.J. Watt from getting to the quarterback a lot. You can throw a lot of flags. But you really can't do that. And if you are an offensive lineman, you should realize that. You should grab him as much as possible because you cannot call flags on every play. They won't do it. But honestly, Andrew, yesterday, every time there's a kick return, there's a penalty. Every time any sort of contact occurs throughout the league, you saw a flag. That's got to stop. There's no flow to these games so far in the NFL.
No, I do think, though, that the way that the rules have changed for how teams practice in the offseason and then the way that the main players get the preseason off, I do think it contributes to the sloppiness that we see. And I get it. Coaches want to protect their players from injury, but I do think it contributes to this lousy product through the first 2 weeks of the season. So, I mean, yeah, like I thought the refs in Atlanta were actually worse than yesterday. I think yesterday I blamed the players more than anything else because when they showed a lot of these calls back on replay, I'm like, yeah, he did hold the guy. Yeah, he did hit him in the head. He did hit him in the helmet with his knee. You know, like they did get the calls right, and I guess it's incumbent, I think, on these coaches to prepare their teams better for the start of the regular season. Bob, I know you've been harping on that for years, doing these preseason games.
Absolutely.
What's even the point of these preseason games if we're not going to try to get these guys better and ready for the start of the regular season?
And if you lose 1 or 2 at the beginning because you're not ready, we saw Jamar Chase look awful yesterday, and he cost them a game with, I mean, if you don't play, you're not going to be sharp, especially an offensive player. Defenses have an advantage. And
Look at Brandon Ayuk.
Brandon Ayuk
He's
has
off
looked
to a
terrible.
horrible start.
Absolutely. So, I mean, he dropped a touchdown in the game one. He hasn't been effective so far. We got to take a break, come back with more. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. We do it 7 nights a week. We hope you call us or tweet us. We appreciate it. KDKA News at 11 starts in about 6 minutes. Ken Rice has all the latest.
Hey, Bob, tonight officials in Butler County are reacting to the latest attempt on former President Trump's life, plus why another McKeesport School District employee is facing criminal charges, and what to know before you cast your vote by mail. All coming up in minutes here, Bob. See you at 11.
All right, thanks very much, Ken. Let's squeeze in Eric in Johnstown. Eric, make it quick, please. All right, he's dropped off. All right, let me ask you this, Andrew, because we always look at trends, and sometimes you can overreact to these things. But since the NFL went to 17-game schedule, 21 teams have started 0-2, and only 2 have made the playoffs. What does this mean for Cincinnati and Baltimore? If you had to choose one of those 2 to rebound and get in, who would it be?
Yeah, it would be Cincinnati because they've done this under Burrow or with Burrow consistently. The last 5 years, they're 1-9 in the first 2 weeks of the season. And in one of those years, they went to a Super Bowl, and another, they went to an AFC Championship and lost to Kansas City. So they've dug themselves out of this hole before. The Ravens, not so much. Every time they've started 0-2, they've missed the playoffs, Bob.
Yeah, and once again, this is the first time I think in 9 years they've started 0-2, and the way they lost that game yesterday, I mean, I'm sorry, 10-point lead in the fourth quarter at home against the Raiders and Gardner Minshew, that's not a good look.
No, it's a terrible one, and it's 2 years in a row they've lost at home to Gardner Minshew. So he's got their number. Hey, Lamar Jackson, say what you will about his MVPs. He can't beat Minshew, he can't beat the Steelers, and he can't win in the playoffs, Bob. Quite the trifecta.
And the Dallas game was more like a playoff game. They normally give up 44 points in the playoffs. This was regular season. I wonder what's going on down there. The Steelers are going to see them later in the year. We're out of time. But Andrew, thanks. Always enjoy the conversation.
Thank
we'll
you,
do
Bob.
it again tomorrow
You
night
bet.
and Wednesday night with you right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Thank you for joining us. Stick around for KDK News at 11 on KDK starts in about 3 minutes.